Good morning, Dr. Bosha. Am I audible?
Yes, Pratik, you are audible. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
yes,
so much. Good
yes.
morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, students.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning to all the
Good morning,
faculty
sir.
members.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
sir.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Good morning to all the faculty members of our department who have joined. So, as you all aware that today our department is organizing Drishtikon. Our department is organizing Drishtikon, that is a debate competition. The topic is already mentioned. You can, students are still joining. Let me admit them. The topic is by ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form. Some of the speakers will speak in favor or in opposition of this proposition. So, without further delay, let me give you the introduction and let me introduce our judge. Despite his busy schedule, Dr. Boshak has given his consent to judge this event. We are really thankful to him. So, Dr. Boshak is the assistant professor in the Department of Botany in the Midnapur College, and he done his PhD from Shantiniketan, from Vishwabharati University, Shantiniketan. And prior to that, he did his BSc from University of Calcutta in Botany Honors, and MSc also from University of Calcutta in Botany. Dr. Boshak works in the field of aerobiology and pollen allergy. Dr. Boshak has already published many research articles, review papers in the journals of national and international reputes, and he works mainly on biotic abiotic stress physiology in enzymology, aerobiology and allergy, clinical immunology, plant metabolomics, plant biology, plant biochemistry, molecular biology. So you can understand he is working in the field of biology, in the field of applied botany or applied plant biology and associated fields. So he is going to judge our debate competition. Apart from that, he visited many countries as research scholar for presenting his papers, his work in Italy, France, Switzerland, Germany, Australia, Austria, Japan, in other areas. And he is also the recipient of some international, national awards such as FIMSA Award, P.H. Gregory Award, and also Young Scientist Award in Environmental Science section in Indian Science Congress in 2015. He is also the member of various academic societies such as the Indian Science Congress Association, European Academy of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, European Respiratory Society, World Allergy Organization, and other. Apart from that, he is the reviewer of Applied Biochemistry and Biotechnology, Springer Publication Journal, and as I mentioned, he is very busy in his research and in teaching. Despite that, we requested him to judge this event, and we are thankful to him that he is here today and he is going to judge your work. So thank you again, Dr. Boshak, for your consent. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik, for your prolonged introduction, though I am not worthy of that. So anyway, I am really feeling very honored to associated with this debate competition and with your institute as well. So thank you so much.
So students, I have already given you the schedule of today's event. So the first speaker of today's debate competition is Rajoshi Roy from BT2. So all of you should start by introducing yourself, and you have to mention that whether you are speaking in favor or against the proposition, against the topic, the motion. And I would request that while speaking, you should be in video mode. Your time is 8 minutes. It's better you can finish within that time, and then the judge and others may ask you few questions related to that. So Rajarshi, please start your presentation, or I should rather say start. Yeah, yeah, please.
Good morning, sir. I am Rashi Roy, and I'm going to present. Excuse me, sir. There's some issue. One second, sir. Yes. Good morning, respected teachers. Myself, Rajarshi Roy, and I would like to speak against the given topic. By ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form. I do believe that an ecosystem can be restored to its original form by ecological restoration. Let's first talk about how the ecosystems are damaged by time over time. Since the advent of industrialization and onset of fuel consumption machineries, people have exploited the nature and the natural resources for the industrial infrastructure by cutting down trees, clearing out the forests in order to build the industries, which as a result destroyed the ecosystem, certain ecosystems. Moreover, they also contaminated the water bodies by dumping of waste materials like nuclear waste and chemical waste, which killed and they have took the lives of various aquatic organisms present there, and hence that also led to destruction of many kinds of aquatic ecosystems. Multiple deforestations and pollution has completely led to the destruction of ecosystems, which has faced this kind of situation. Moreover, we all know that about the holes in the ozone layer by the increased concentration of chlorofluorocarbon gas in the atmosphere from certain industrial and domestic devices, which has led to exposure of the harmful ultraviolet B rays of the sun, which are highly harmful for human beings and other living organisms due to its ability to have cancer. Moreover, ozone layer, the holes in the ozone layer also led to the formation of global warming, which is increasing the temperature all over the globe. And hence, due to the temperature increase, many ecosystems are getting damaged and even getting killed. Now, coming to what is ecological restoration. Ecological restoration means to reverse the critical effects of the exploited ecosystems by the process of reforestation of lands, decontamination of water bodies, initiating natural restoration by reducing effluent concentration in land masses and water bodies, and by enhancing pollution control measures. And I think this is the only way to restore the damaged and exploited ecosystem, taking into the fact it may take some time, it may take a lot of time, but also the nature can heal itself. And if we remove all these toxic factors from the environment, I guess nature will find a way or find some time to restore its original healthy form back. Now, we all know that a damaged ecosystem can result in many kinds of calamities, like increased concentration of carbon dioxide and methane gas. We all know methane gas is highly poisonous for in intaking, and carbon dioxide gas, the increased carbon dioxide gas in the atmosphere has is a main factor for global warming. Plants absorb carbon dioxide to produce oxygen, which all living organisms and human beings breathe. Now, if we destroy the lands, if we cut down all the trees, then who will convert this CO2 into O2? In If that happens, then the carbon dioxide concentration which will increase so much that eventually life forms will be extinguished and even go extinct. Now, global warming can even lead to extinction of species, as I was saying, because the destruction of nature will result in food crisis and changes in the natural patterns, because it's all connected. Now, nature is the primitive home of all human beings and other living creatures, because we have all originated from nature itself. And nature gives us all the vital components to live. And hence, if nature is destroyed, if nature is filled with toxic materials, then obviously it won't be able to provide us with all the necessities we get in our daily lives, and eventually this will lead to extinction of all the life forms on earth. Hence, this ecosystem needs to be protected, and in order to make that happen, ecological restoration needs to be implemented so as to reverse the effects of the damaged ecosystem and to restore it to its original healthy form. Thank you so much.
Okay, Rajarshi, very nice presentation. So,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Bashak, if you have any question or query, you can ask.
Rajeshi, I would like to ask you one thing, that is, you have mentioned so many of things like how the nature has been damaged and all these things, but the one thing I think you missed some of the very important topic, or I can say important point regarding the ecological restoration, and whole of your presentation is lacking of some of the information which you are actually desiring to say. I feel so. So anyway, let's see for rest of the.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, I would request the next speaker from BT2 to start his part. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. By ecological restoration, an
Please,
ecosystem cannot.
please introduce yourself and mention whether you are speaking in favor or against of the
Yes, sir,
motion.
I'll do that. Yes. Good morning, respected professors and everyone present here. This is me, Anushka Datta, speaking firmly against the motion. By ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form. To repair ecological restorations, the method involved with repairing sites in nature whose organic networks and biological and ecological systems have been debased or obliterated. In numerous ecosystems, humans have changed nearby local populations of native plants and animals, presented intrusive species, converted natural environments to extractive use. To repair and restore biological systems, restoration experts apply ideas from the area of environment. For instance, in calm coniferous timberlands, plant species provide shelters and foods to various creatures. The forest ecosystem provides significant types of assistance, like nutrient cycling, both for the creatures that live there and for the people who utilize the timberland for timber and recreation. According to W.M. Scaffer, experimental restoration and rehabilitation works just fine to contain possibly regain the lost lands. I would like to mention few integral aspects in the restoration and rehabilitation of ecosystem and ongoing or potential experimentations with special emphasis on India. Firstly, the role of native flora. Native flora are the pioneer species of a local ecosystem, and utmost attention must be given to their well-being. Their importance can be laid on setting up the ecological gardens, herbal gardens, where vast swaths of local forest lands can be afforested back with the help of local communities and state-of-art technologies. If we talk of mangroves and their degradation, there is a hope. Barakot and Bhitarnikan Odisha is stepping up the efforts to scale up mangrove restoration using community engagements. In Sundarban, a new technology aimed to revive the mangroves using native salt-tolerant grasses and a diverse set of growth-promoting bacteria has been developed. In both cases, the results are encouraging. When it comes to innovation, the curious case of Manipuri days cannot be ignored. Here, carbon dots are being produced from the invasive water hyacinth, which have wide applications in biomolecular detection, metal or ion detection, etc. This will benefit conservation of native flora at all Ramsar and Montreux wetlands. Second, the landscape restoration. Some innovative ways to conserve desert landscapes are through rainwater harvesting, canneling, and traditional cultivation, such as Zai of Burkina Faso, green walls that are led by African Union, are a collective path to plant acacia trees along the whole breadth of Saharan desert, which will in water management, food security, etc. Rainwater harvesting and canneling are extremely benefiting local khejri trees in Rajasthan. India is also planning her green wall in Aravalli region, which is seen as an expanding desert land. Recently, there has been addition of new Ramsar wetlands, which directly enhances the status of conserving and protecting migratory birds. Pollinators and their complex interactions with nature are well known. According to an IUCN assessment, almost 75% of food crops in the world and about 90% of all flowering plants depends on at least one animal pollinator. Any drastic degradation or change in their habitat will adversely affect the entire life on Earth. National Beekeeping Mission serves exactly this purpose and also seeks to double farmers' income by 2022. Thirdly, means as ends, Bamboonomics is a recent movement to combat desertification and climate change involving the tribal communities in India. Tribes must be brought to the mainstream, especially in the fifth and the sixth scheduled areas under Constitution of India. The Forest Rights Act 2006 and numerous sacred groves in India also serves the purpose in managing the challenge with least effort and traditional values. Besides, this launch of International Solar Alliance and One National One Gas Grid will ensure that mining and deforestation are checked to the maximum and that India's INDCs are met by 2025. Also, stress is laid on the keystone species restoration. Towards this end, the Project Tiger, M-Strips, Mike, and new national parks, etc., are being successfully implemented. According to Protected Planet Report, India has reported a net increase in protected areas and forest cover. It was stressed that conservation of the great Indian bustard and snow leopard can prevent land degradation as they are the keystone species and their role is utmost importance. Lastly, the silver lining. 2021 to 30 is declared as a decade of economic ecosystem restoration by the United Nations, and techniques of restoration and rehabilitation is integral to that goal. There is a general way forward towards eco-restoration, that is, employing large scale of well-trained professionals in academic circles of India, involving mechanism of training of field-level personnel, adhering to international standards when it comes to core restoration strategies. Lastly, more focus on EIA funding and compulsory afforestation campa with a regulatory touch is required. Ensuring strict adherence to this will go a long way in a lens of a sustainable world. Article 48 and 51 of the Constitution of India reminds us of our constitutional obligations towards our environment. Considering all the discussed themes in my declamation, such are necessary to ensure that we do not fall prey to the consequences faced by our ancestors during the fall of the great Indian civilization. I conclude by stressing that we, are responsible future citizens and leaders, must raise our voices and opinions for sustainable ecosystem, the restoration, the upcoming COP 2007 as Glasgow must follow the Paris spirit to formulate an overreaching oversight mechanism, most preferably through a mix of revamped INDCs and historical responsibilities. Thank you all for your patience. Sir,
Yes, I was muted. Okay, Anushka, very well done. So,
thank you.
yeah, and Anushka, you have given a complete scenario of the entire topic. I would request Dr. Bosha if you have some questions.
Anushka, your deliberation
Yes,
was
sir.
excellent and it was full of information, uh, which actually are very worthy. But the thing is that you have delivered your view in an informative form or informative way. That is pretty good. But the thing is that it doesn't. I feel it doesn't satisfy the motto of the debate. I think. I mean. What is your topic of the debate? You have covered lot of things, lot of information, and all are very worthy. So there is no problem. But the thing is that you have mentioned. I think you have mentioned you are going with the motion, right?
Against the motion, sir.
Against the motion. Okay, you are going against the motion. That is very true. But the thing is that I think there is some lacking in your deliberation, which should satisfy the motto of the debate. I think you are very aware of the topic of the debate. So anyway, let's see. Okay, I would like to ask you one more thing. That is, have you heard about the IPBS IPBES 2019 policy? Have you aware of that? IPBES 2019.
Sir, I don't know thoroughly, but I know it's something related to biodiversity services or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Anushka. Thank you, Dr. Bosha. Now I would request Srishti Chakraborty of BT2. She is the third speaker. Srishti, are you
Yes,
there?
sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please try to be in video mode. Yes.
So can I start?
Yes, certainly. You can start.
Okay, sir. A very good morning to all the teachers present over here. Today, I, Srishti Chakraborty, is going to speak for the topic by ecological restoration. An ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form. So, what is ecological restoration? It is the practice of renewing and restoring damaged, degraded, or destroyed ecosystems and habitats in the environment by active human interruption and action. Now, why there is a need to restore natural ecosystem? Natural ecosystems provides ecosystem services in the form of resources such as food, fuel, and timber, the purification of air and water, the detoxification and decomposition of wastes, the regulation of climate, the regeneration of soil fertility, and the pollination of crops. Now, habitat loss is the leading cause of both species extinction and ecosystem service decline. So, for resolving this problem, two methods have been identified to slow the rate of species extinction and ecosystem service decline. They are the conservation of currently viable habitat and the restoration of degraded habitat. In my view, this is not possible since the degradation of an ecosystem involves permanent changes in the biophysical environment that may never recover. Since contemporary ecological realities, including global climate change, may cause it to develop along an altered trajectory, just as these same realities may have changed the trajectory of nearby undisturbed ecosystems. Ecological restoration seeks to initiate or accelerate ecosystem recovery following damages, degradation, or destruction. Restoration practitioners do not carry out the actual work of ecosystem recovery, rather, they create the condition needed for recovery. So, the plants, animals, and microorganisms can carry out their work on their own. The goal of ecological restoration is to return a degraded ecosystem to its historic trajectory and not to its historic condition. In other hand, often time is a factor behind the unsuccessfulness of ecological restoration. Like restoration activities can often place a degraded ecosystem on an initial trajectory of recovery relatively quickly, but full recovery of the ecosystem can take decades or even hundreds of years. For example, if there were 500 old trees in the forest that was destroyed, then the restoration should logically take hundreds of years to achieve full recovery, and during that recovery period, unforeseen barriers to recovery may be encountered, or additional restoration activities may become possible at later stages of development. Thus, while individual restoration activities may be completed, in most cases the restoration process continues as the ecosystem recovers and matures. So, in reality, restoration may not succeed in re establishing the full assemblage of native species or the full extent of the original ecosystem's structure and function. Thank you.
Okay, Srishti, you have delivered your thought quite clearly. One point
Thank
that
you,
I
sir.
want to make to all of you, those who have presented, it is better when you are appearing for a debate or any competition organized by college. Due to this pandemic, it is in online mode. You should better be in the college uniform. So please try to maintain it from the next event. Okay, all of you. I am just mentioning
Okay,
it
sir.
for all of you. Yeah. So yes, Dr. Bosha.
That is, Srishti, it was a very clear and nice presentation. Very clear and very focused and nice presentation. I am extremely happy with your presentation.
Thank you,
And
sir.
you have mentioned a terminology that is the historic trajectory. This is not at all connected to your topic, but may I ask you one thing? That is, do you know who actually first coined this term historic trajectory?
Um,
This is not. This is absolutely not a question. That's just for a fun.
sir, I don't know.
This is first coined, or actually, the motif of the historic trajectory was first introduced by Karl Marx. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Srishti. Thank you, Dr. Bosha. Now the next speaker is from second year, Aratrik Roy. Aratrik, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, please. start with. So let me stop my presentation. Yeah, you can start.
Sir, am I audible?
You are audible and visible both. Yeah.
Okay. So before introducing myself, today I would like to cite an interesting example which shall support my argument. The restoration of the Barbanger Ranch Preserve in Texas began in 1969. Now, prior to that, the barren land was completely covered with ash juniper trees that prevent the growth of any other plants. After decades of hard work removing the juniper trees, introducing a variety of new grasses, the land went through an amazing transformation that proved that through dedicated work and patience, an ecosystem can be completely restored. Good morning, my respected professors, my worthy opponents, and the audience. I, Aratrik Roy, will present my stance in the opposition of today's motion. By ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be fully transformed to its original form. Now, before I delve further into the topic, let's understand what is actually meant by original form of an ecosystem. What is the role an ecosystem is supposed to play? An ecosystem, in its original form, provides habitats to different wild animals and plants. It supports the flora and fauna. It is also responsible for the cycling of nutrients between biotic and abiotic components. It supports various food chains, regulates numerous ecological processes that supports the life present in such places. Now, according to me, an ecosystem can be called to be truly restored only when it can perform these vital functions easily again. Let's clearly understand my point with the help of an example. Now, I will cite the example of one of the most successful restoration projects of India, that is known as the Project Tiger. The project was launched with a view of increasing the tiger population of Jim Corbett National Park so as to maintain the ecological balance of that place. With lots of efforts from the government, great amount of investment, the tiger population has seen a remarkable growth in the recent years. Few months ago, according to Dhananjay Mohan, the director of Wildlife Institute of India, Jim Corbett National Park has sustained its top position when it comes to tiger population among all the 50 tiger reserves in the country. This proves that attempts towards full ecological restoration can be perfectly possible. Another example is the restoration of the Western Ghats. The region has witnessed extensive deforestation between 1890 and 1940 for tea, coffee, cardamom, and eucalyptus plantation done by the Britishers. Now, huge difference was noticeable in the first 7 to 15 years of restoration. The forest cover was increased, the biodiversity grew back to its healthy levels. Now, I can say that things almost returned to their original state. The research team, which was observing the progress of the restoration, discovered that the process gave excellent results, which were just like the original ecosystem. I can say for sure that with the developments in today's technology, the chances of successfully restoring an ecosystem are getting brighter than ever. Heavy research is being done all across the world in various institutes to revive the damaged ecosystems in their best possible states. Various startups are working day and night to reach the goal. Hereby, I conclude my argument by strongly emphasizing on my stance that an ecosystem can definitely be transformed to its original form via restoration. Thank you.
Thank you, Aratrik. You have mentioned various aspects and you have depicted
Thank
it
you, sir.
nicely. The way you started your talk, it was very good. I have a single question. You mentioned about various ecological restoration in different parts of India and also in foreign countries. So, do you have the idea about hotspots? Do you know what is ecological
Yes, sir.
hotspot?
Yes, sir. I mean, at the places which are labeled as ecological hotspots, extremely endangered or like special animals which don't have lots of population throughout the world, they are kept there, especially.
Yes, I think then you are aware of the fact that endemic species, you know that, I think you are familiar
Yes,
with the
yes,
word endemic species.
yes, sir.
So I have a simple question, as you mentioned so many good examples. By ecological restoration, whether if one endemic species was lost or in the verge of extinction, what is your thought? Whether their population can be restored and their vegetation, their habitat and niche can be restored. What is your thought about it?
I'm just going to ask the same question, Pratik.
Okay.
Sir, I think like with the help of science, genetic engineering, this is very much possible. I mean, even if the species is endemic, if the scientists they already know which kind of species are endangered and they can go extinct in the future, they can store their like germ cells and
That
you know.
that is ex situ conservation when you are
Exactly,
storing all
exactly,
this.
sir.
We are
Exactly, sir.
talking about in situ. তুমি ওই
Okay.
জায়গার জঙ্গলটাকে তুমি যেরকম ইকোলজিক্যাল রেস্টোরেশন করে যদি ফিরিয়ে দাও পুরোনো অবস্থায়, তাহলে এন্ডেমিক স্পিসিস গুলো কি সেভাবেই আবার তার পুনরুত্থানে আগের যে অবস্থা সেটাই ফিরে আসতে পারবে? It's correct the way you are saying that the ex situ steps can be taken. So I am talking about in situ. What is your thought? As you mentioned so many good examples, so I was curious of knowing that.
Exactly, exactly, sir.
Okay.
Exactly.
What is your thought? Can you
So
explain
like
that? Yeah.
in situ, yeah, like it will take time, but unless and until the species has completely gone extinct, I think it is possible that the like it will return to its normal state.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Yes, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Boshar.
Okay, no, I don't have any question. You already have mentioned so many of my views already. So
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Arachri. So now I would request Sampriti Chatterjee. Sampriti, please start your talk.
Yes, sir. A very good morning to one and all present here. I am Sampriti Chatterjee from second year, and today I am going to talk on the topic by ecological restoration, ecosystem can't be truly transformed to its original form. Ecosystem is defined as a geographical area where
Sorry to
different
interrupt. Are you in favor or in opposition? You are talking.
Exactly, I'm going to ask you the same. Yeah.
so for the motion.
Okay. Please continue.
Okay, okay.
Ecosystem is defined as a geographical area where different organisms coexist together. An ecosystem is subjected to constant changes and degradation due to climate change, natural phenomenon, and human interaction. Ecological restoration, on the other hand, is a procedure by which these changes are attempted to be reverted to regain back the original form of the ecosystem in question. By ecological restoration, an ecosystem's original form cannot be regained. I would like to speak for the motion. In my opinion, there are several chemical reactions that occur over the span of time which make certain irreparable changes in the ecosystem. For instance, due to severe air pollution, acid rain occurs. This acidic rainwater seeps into the depths of the soil, changing the pH of the soil. This change in the pH results in the change in the type of flora of the ecosystem, thus bringing a significant change in the ecosystem. It becomes extremely difficult to completely regain back the original pH of the soil, as it is humanly impossible to go into such depths on such a large scale. Another reason to back my stance would be migration of animals in a large scale. At times, due to irreversible changes in the climate, change in prey predator cycles, and human interference, certain species of animals migrate away from their original ecosystem to find a new home. This withdrawal of species of certain animals changes the ecosystem completely. An ecosystem is defined by the flora and fauna found in it. If that changes even a slightest bit, the ecosystem is said to have changed form. Thereby, I would like to conclude by saying that change is the only constant. The world we live in today did not always look like this. It is to these changes that we owe our existence, and thus we should not try to meddle in the natural process. Thank you.
Okay, Sampriti. very nicely done. But I have one observation. It is better when you are delivering any lecture or any participating in a debate, when you are speaking for or opposition, you should cite some examples, real life examples of what is happening all over the world. So this is one suggestion. Okay, Dr. Bosha, this is a very great.
Yes, Sampriti, it's a nice deliberation. So, may I ask you something? That is, do you have any ideas regarding the some of the ecological restoration policies of government of India? Government of India, any ecological restoration policies they have made within last 5 years?
Sir, no, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next speaker is Meghna Mishra of Biotechnology second year. Meghna, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning to our honorable judge, respected professors, respected seniors who are also present, and to my fellow classmates. I am Meghna Mishra, and as we are aware, our motion for debate today is by ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form, and I am going to argue for the motion. So, but before I come to my actual argumentation, I would like to emphasize on the words original form, as my friend Oratrik has also started. But my approach is, what do we actually mean by original form in this phrase, in this title, topic of the debate? So, for one, we can take this as the original form of a particular or a group of species. That is the way they lived in the ecosystem and the way they interacted with the environment, which mainly forms the ecosystem. Or we can have it as a full-fledged system, including each and every details, starting from the texture of the soil, the quality of the air, the vegetation present, and of course the climatic conditions of the location. So, for my argumentation, I would like to consider the later part, and I would like to state my point of views why it's not quite possible to achieve that kind of transformation. So now, firstly, ecological restoration, as we know, is the process aiming to recreate, initiate, or accelerate the recovery of an ecosystem that has been disturbed. Now, what do we mean by this disturbance? It can be degradation, damage, or destruction by natural calamities or various anthropogenic causes. Now, assisting this recovery can be as simple as removing an invasive species or reintroducing a lost species or a lost function like a fire or a water body, or as complex as altering landforms, planting vegetation, changing the hydrology of the ecosystem, or introducing the wildlife that has been lost. So now, according to restoration energy, these kinds of transformations require various restoration activities. Now, these activities are designed to replicate a pre-disturbance ecosystem or to create a new ecosystem where it had not previously occurred. The disturbance has not previously occurred. So I would like to discuss a little bit about these activities brief. So, firstly, revegetation, which is, as the name suggests, it is the establishment of the vegetation on the sites where it has been previously lost. Now, in this case, often we aim towards restoring the soil erosion and maintenance of the soil fertility in order to restore the vegetation. So one of the instance of this is the vegetation buffers or vegetated buffers, which is basically strips of vegetation which are present in riparian system. Now, a riparian system is one where the vegetation is present alongside a water body. Now, what these strips can do, they can protect the quality of the water in the water body from the agricultural or urban runoffs, and thus the water body's ecosystem can be restored. Next, I can state about habitat enhancement, which is, as the name suggests, it is the process of increasing the suitability of a site as a habitat. Then we have remediation, which is existing the improving an existing ecosystem or making a new ecosystem by replacing the deteriorated or destroyed factors or components of the ecosystem. Lastly, we have mitigation, that is by legally mandated remediation for the loss of protected species of an ecosystem. Now the reason I discussed these processes is to show how the system of restoration depends on multiple variable factors. Now, none of them can be kept as constant. These processes are individually difficult to achieve on their own. Then just think when a practitioner or a restorationist has to consider each and every factor and carry out these processes. Now, needless to say, juggling all these variables are quite difficult to achieve. Now, another thing that I would like to state is that when the restorationists choose a target for the restoration, choose a location, they often consider a small species or a small range of possible community types. And that is the reason why they cannot really handle like a large community or a large content of ecosystem species or factors. Now, ultimately, if we see, as my friend has already stated, the goal of ecological restoration is to return a degraded system to its historic trajectory and not its historic condition. Another problem can be the temporal dimension. Now, how long do we have to wait to get the final result? Will it be 20 years, 50 years, 100 years? We do not know that for sure. And during this long wait, there could be many kinds of anthropogenic or natural calamities or natural processes like forest fires, earthquakes, cyclones, and they can obviously derail the recovery process. So, on a whole, we cannot really take every situation in this location for granted, and not everything is under our control. So, hence, I would like to say that for all these undefined variables that we need to consider, my motion must stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Meghna. Your deliberation was very clear and very thought-provoking. I would request Dr. Bosak if he has any question to ask.
Yes, Meghna, you have nicely defended your view and your point of view. But think I would like to ask one small question. This is not a question at all. If like a 500 years old tree, okay,
Yeah.
has been cut down, okay. So then you are starting to you are planning to start replantation and all these things. Is it really be restored? And how long it been? I mean, the time is not, I think, 500-year-old plant or trees, whatever you can say. So this is not made up in a day or like this. So is it really possible to restore?
So, firstly, I would like to say that if it's a 500-year-old tree, the species of the plant will also have to consider, like, if it's cut in a way that it can be regenerated, there are chances, but it's very difficult for like such an old tree to be restored in that specific climatic condition, because the climatic condition of that location 500 years ago was not at all same than it is in present. So, I think it will be very difficult, sir.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Meghna. Very good answer. So, thank you, Dr. Bosak. Now, the next speaker is from third year biotechnology, Ushmita Samanto. Ushmita, please start your deliberation. Ushmita, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm there. I hope I'm visible and audible both.
Yeah, yeah.
So, a very good morning to all the dignitaries present in the meeting. I am Ashmita Shambunpur, a third year student from the Biotech department. Now, as we have gotten familiar with the topic of our discussion today, by ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form. I will be delivering my thoughts and collected data for the motion. Before advancing towards the motion, let me start by understanding what is ecological restoration. If we look into the internet, it says it is preventing, halting, and reversing the ecological damages, which is a very technical definition, I believe. However, the ecosystem does not hold any part which can be technically explained. An ecosystem, by definition, says it is a community where every individual interacts with each other and is directly or indirectly dependent upon each other as well. The formation of this ecosystem took over millions of years. The codependence of every biotic and abiotic components has proven that nothing in this system can be replaced or be disregarded. The interaction between the different organisms that makes up the ecosystem contributes to a certain stability. However, with the evolution in the physical activities of humans and massive climate changes along with nature's movements, in reality, the ecosystem has undergone dynamic changes which have resulted in an immediate action of ecological restoration. As warned by the UN in the quotation as I say, as much as 50% of coral reefs have already been lost, and up to 90% of coral reefs could be lost by 2050, even if global warming is limited to increase of 1.5 degrees centigrade. Yes, sure, this warning has made the humans put forward an immediate action, and the marine restoration process is working at a very steady pace. Several organizations and ocean governing bodies have put forward new rules and regulations along with the environmental projects which are protecting the marine world and is helping in marine ecological restoration. The world has started to repair and restore ecosystem with actions like revegetation, habitat enhancement, mitigation, and many more such activities. Ladies and gentlemen, however, are these restorations enough? Because I am very sure everyone came across this news a few weeks ago about the Faroe Islands of Denmark and the disturbing culture of slaughtering a mass number of dolphins. According to the data of NDTV, more than 1,400 white-sided dolphins were killed in a day, and it was said to be the single biggest hunt in the northern archipelago. This tradition of slaughtering this endangered species has been followed for centuries, and if we recall properly, we heard this similar incident in the past few years as well. Despite having hunting as an illegal activity, we are still observing this horrendous crime against the ecosystem's stability in such a small number, with a maximum population of nearly about 49,000 people. So, what says that humans are actually working on ecological restoration? And as one of the biggest contributors to the ecosystem, how is the human species bringing any major restoration to this ecosystem? Bringing ecological restoration may sound very easy and reasonable, but with the current situation of the ecosystem, the hope keeps falling down. Alterations brought by the humans to vast areas of both land as well as water, ranging from agriculture to mining and construction, has profoundly resulted in various forms of pollution, mainly air pollution and water pollution. The constant release of carbon, nitrogen, sulfur oxide in the air and untreated liquids disposed of in the water bodies are evidently harming the organisms of all forms and is abruptly disturbing the flow of ecosystem. Another notable activity that I would like to put forward and which may prevent the true transformation in the ecosystem through ecological restoration is the horrifying catastrophe that happened in the past due to the large-scale nuclear wars that has still not been recovered. The petrifying incident of Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bombing of 1945, which killed an estimated 140,000 people in Hiroshima and another further of 74,000 people in Nagasaki. 5 to 6 years later, after the bombing, the incidence of leukemia increased noticeably among the survivors due to genetic alteration and several other medical causes related to mutations. After about a decade, survivors began to suffering from thyroid, breast, lung, and several other cancers at a very higher than normal rate. And the pregnant women who were exposed to this bombing experienced a very high rate of miscarriages and deaths among their infants. And along with intellectual disabilities, impaired growth, and increased risk of developing cancer among themselves. Not only humans, but animals as well as plants were observed to have undergone several changes in their physical appearance due to alterations caused at genetic level. Although Japan is one of the fastest growing countries in the world and has also succeeded in preserving its environment and the ecosystem with proper measures, it took the nation several decades to overcome this ecological catastrophe. Another such example is the Chernobyl disaster of 1986, which I am sure we are all familiar with. And it has resulted in an uncountable number of mutations in both human and plant species. And the scientists are yet not sure whether it will take another 20 or 100 years to restore the ecosystem back to its original form of that region. This gives us the conclusion that ecological restoration gives us no assurance of either time or even result. Another important factor which should make us raise the question of complete ecological restoration is the climate changes and their effects. Climate change can evidently alter the lives of many species, their interaction, as well as timing of biological events, which could possibly transform the current ecosystem as well as the food web system. Climate changes can overwhelm the capacity of ecosystem to mitigate extreme events and disturbances such as wildfires, floods, and drought. Furthermore, the changes in the climate are notably beyond the control of humans, and the researchers are fearing that these climate changes may even affect the areas that has been successfully restored. One of my juniors spoke previously against the motion and talked about the ecological restoration taking place in India for tigers. Although India is moving at a very slower pace and not much development has been seen, to be very honest, and coming to the preservance of tigers, despite making poaching illegal, only an estimated of 3,900 tigers are remaining in this wild nature of India. And even though the juvenile mortality is very high, however, about half of all the cubs do not even survive more than 2 years, whereas tigers have been known to reach up to 20 years of age in the wild. Moreover, preserving the already endangered species may help in ecological restoration. However, numerous species are already on the brink of extinction and their habitat has already gotten reduced to a remnant or rather eliminated completely. Therefore, the hope of long-term survival of such species is basically the recreation of their habitat by human beings. Perhaps the idea of the movie Jurassic Park may be seen in the reality then. And even if we are able to recreate the whole habitat, there is no absolute guarantee that those species will be able to survive in this constantly changing environment and survive along with the humans as well. Thus, I will be concluding my view for the motion of today's topic of the debate session that it is not completely possible to have the ecosystem restored back to its original form. And it is mentioned before as well that degradation of the ecosystem affects permanently to the biophysical environment, which is we are unsure of any recovery. And even if it theoretically proves that ecological restoration can be brought, then how long do we have to wait for the final result? Will it be 10, 50, 100, 200, or even another millions of years? And is there an assurance that during the wait of this ultimate restoration to happen, there will be no other anthropogenic or natural disasters which will be preventing the recovery process to successfully occur? Thank you. That will be all from my side.
Okay, Usmita. So you have cited many examples and all the contemporary ones, I must say. So it's very good, and the way you have put forward your views, it's very well done. So I have just one suggestion. The examples
Yes,
you have cited, it is to some extent tilted, it seemed to me, towards the animals. You have to
yes.
cite the examples as well as of the plants and others. So because you are talking about ecosystem, all the components should be taken care of. That's why I'm mentioning why, because you have given so many examples and quite rightly. So that is my suggestion. Yes,
Yes,
Dr.
I'll
Boshak.
try to start in more
Yes,
detail.
yeah, Dr. Boshak. If you have any question, Dr. Boshak, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I am
Yeah.
here. Yeah. Usmita, I must say that you have excellently defend your thought through some of the very excellent example from recent time and from some historic view and all this. And this is very impressive for me. This is very impressive deliberation since now for me. And you have mentioned some of the very important incidents in recent time and for the past time, which is actually truly irreversible for the ecological restoration, or this is not at all really possible to restore by any means. So you have covered almost all the possible example with all the possible example, and I'm very impressed with your deliberation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that means a lot.
Okay, so Sharulina was supposed to speak next, but she is not at all well. She has communicated it. So I would request Shaunak Chandra of the third year to deliver his thought.
Yes. Hope I am visible and audible, sir.
Yeah, you can start.
Good morning to all my due members, fellow mates, and respected teachers present here. So, myself, Shonok Chando, I will be speaking on the favor of the topic. By ecological restoration, an ecosystem cannot be truly transformed to its original form. So, this is the beautiful earth, is what we all have in common. What if there are lots of trees and rich in biodiversity around us and few number of humans? And what if there are enormous number of human beings but not a single tree or a few number of trees? So hence the situation is imbalanced over here. So as many of my friends like Rajashri has mentioned about plantation program, so I want to highlight on that point. In this imbalanced situation, the ecology or the ecosystem needs a proportion of equality. Like to maintain a balanced balanced ecosystem, the proportion of both the living organisms like the higher eukaryotes and the plants or the biodiversity should be equal. So if we think logically, does the current situation is permitting to do so? Not at all. Many of my friends also mention about the destruction of the ecosystem, like carbon dioxide increase, pollution, and this is etc. etc. But why this is happening so? Because according to biology, the superior organisms stands to be dominant over the recessive. In this case, the higher eukaryotes, that is the human beings, comes into play. So if we go back to the ancient days, we'll find lots of green resources and a less human population. But now the situation is totally reciprocal. Population of the humans are increasing day by day and there is hardly any space remaining for the ecosystem to be restored, as restoration demands space, demands time. So in this electronic media, in the electronic generation, the human beings are not giving at all time to restore the biodiversity. So at the concluding part, I want to mention that in an increased population of human being, it is hard to restore back the ecosystem to its original form. It is really hard to restore the ecosystem to its original form, as the population is increasing, as the number of generations are increasing. So if a individual doesn't look forward to restore the diversity around him or her, it is hard to restore the plants or hard to restore the diversity around us. And last but not the least, I should mention, if we think logically, humans are the main reason for the ecosystem to be get declined. So the more we get internally clean, the more we are way to the God, as cleanliness is the way to godliness. Thank you.
Okay, Shaunak, you have very clearly delivered your views, but I have one suggestion to make. You have depicted in a different manner The way you depicted it's very unique. But again, few real life examples,
Yes.
contemporary examples, it was better if it was introduced. The way you have started and mentioned all the things, quite good, but it my suggestion, try to give some contemporary examples. Okay? So,
Yes.
yes, okay, okay. So, Dr. Boshak, if you want to ask a question.
Yes, Shonok, you have shared your idea in a quite different way that is really appreciable. But as your sir said that you have to choose some of the real time example or contemporary example to defend your thought, because this is a kind of a your view of your thought sharing is completely different, and I appreciate it really. But the thing is that this is a scientific forum, so you have to mention some of the example from the ecological point of view. It's maybe the historical point of view. It can be anything, like, but you should have cite some of the example with your deliberation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so our final, the last speaker, as Shoham also is having some family issues, he is not going to be able to present. So our last speaker in today's Drishtikon debate is Drisha Roy from BT3 Biotechnology third year. Please, Drisha, start your debate.
Sir, am I audible and visible properly?
Yes, you are audible and
Yes, sir. Warm greetings to all the teachers and students present here. I am Drisha Roy and I'll be presenting my views for today's motion, which states that by ecological restoration cannot truly transform an ecosystem to its original form. Now, if we talk about this year, on 5th of June, the United Nations General Assembly has declared 2021 to 2030 as the decade of ecosystem restoration. But before we come to our actual argumentation, we must understand what is the main goal that we want to achieve through ecological restoration. Our definition of restoration has continued to evolve and be the topic of extensive debate over a long period of time. What we want is to set the ecosystem on a path towards the recovering community composition, ecosystem structure, and ecosystem processes that is almost similar to the compared to the original one. While doing this, we face a number of challenges like shifting baselines, impossibility of controlling the trajectory of ecosystem recovery, lack of resources and knowledge, not having a definite time frame, conflicting goals, and many more. My first reason why I am proposing this argument is the shifting baseline. The question which arises here is that what should we take as a reference model prior restoration, or what is a proper restoration model? Uh, each generation of each successive generation assumes that the uh, degraded state is the standard rather than realizing that this state has already been altered by the prior human civilization. These changes means that the successive ecological practitioners lowers their uh, lowers their expectancy or uh, expectations from the ecological restoration. Shifting baseline also uh, proves to be shifting baseline also projects the difficulty where the ecosystem is continuously changing. Now, coming to the next point of impossibility of controlling the trajectory of ecosystem recovery, that even if we choose the reference model, another challenge is directing the trajectory of recovery towards a desired state. The natural disturbances can be a major setback to the progress of the already established species composition. Of course, halting the negative impacts to a region and controlling all the variables at different ecological stages still remains a huge challenge. Now, coming to the next point of lack of knowledge and resources, there will always be trade offs between what is desired and what is feasible given the funding availability. Likewise, lack of knowledge limits our ability to restore the ecosystem true to its potential. The act of trying to restore the ecosystem is the ultimate test of our understanding how the ecosystem function properly. We witness a visible lack of ecosystem resources and information needed for the proper planning of the restoration. The next point that needs to be addressed is the I'm sorry, sir. The next point that needs to be addressed uh, is the conflicting goals. Restoring an ecosystem to a specific state does not seem that much of controversy in case of the ecological goals, but conflicts still arise regarding achieving a desired state. For example, the removal of tamarisk tree, which is an non-invasive species, is highly controversial because it negatively affects the endangered species, that is the southwestern willow flycatcher that lives in the tamarisk trees. In light of this example, we can see that there is uh, a direct influence of the conflicting goals on the ecosystem composition that cannot be restored otherwise. My next point is the proper rehabilitation of the key species. If we take, for example, in the Gorongosa National Park, after the post-Civil War era, the population of water bucks has increased tenfold, whereas tenfold, changing the ecosystem from one dominated by buffaloes to one dominated by water bucks. Only an estimated 50 to 70 lions, which was the keystone species of the park, now reside, which was once famous for them. In light of this example, we can see that the whole ecosystem changed due to this particular alteration in species population. To sum up my main points, putting all the species on the landscape can be like putting all the pieces of the puzzle on the board and expecting it to be solved by its own. There are various complex interactions, historical succession patterns, and complex species interactions that cannot be always restored or replicated. For all these reasons, I think today's motion must stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Disha, for your elaborate and thought-provoking talk. So,
Thank you, sir.
uh, yeah, so you have put forward your views quite nicely. So, Dr. Boshak, if you want to ask any question.
Yes, Disha, you have actually shared your view in a different way, and that is also very appreciable. Uh, but the thing is that, I must say that all of you are going with the motion. That that is a very good thing, because the restoration is really needed. That may not restore it in its original situation, but it is really needed. So may I ask you one thing, that is, should the government, should the central government or the state government should take any initiative to restore the ecological balance or the ecosystem or anything?
Yes, sir. I think it's very necessary and it's high time that they take proper steps to restore and conserve the endangered species as well as the present or the current uh, flora and fauna of India. I
Okay,
think yes,
thank you,
sir.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so students, thank you very much for participating. And I can see that many students were there in the initial stages, but they left. But when you are joining in such debate competition, if it was offline one, then you have to be taking throughout. So it is better to maintain it in the online platform also. Okay.
Dr.
So
Talukdar,
yes,
yes, uh, there is another two contestant. I think
yes, they are
one is
not.
Sharon Napa.
Sharonnapal and Soham Bindu. Sharonna
Correct,
is
correct,
not
correct.
well, so she
Okay,
communicated today morning, and
okay,
Soham
okay. Fine.
had some Navaratri issues. They have
Okay.
some celebration,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I
Okay. No
told
issue.
them
No
that
issue.
you should keep it in mind while enlisting your name. But what to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
They
Okay.
are
No. No.
not
No.
going
It's
to
fine. It's fine.
participate.
It's fine.
So, uh, thank you, students. Thank you, Dr. Bashar, for your time. And I would request you to give your views that you judged our event, and what is your thought about this event and the way our students have performed. It will be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Sure. 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 That is. Primarily, I must say that I am really feeling very honored and very happy to associate with you in such an excellent event, which is Drishtikon, and we should views or elaborate our ideas, that is the Drishtikon. So it was named also very nicely. So the thing is that ecological restoration is really needed, but the thing is that I think this is my point of view. This is with emotion. That is, we couldn't really restore it in its original situation or original position, because it is nearly impossible. It is really nearly impossible. Some of your students actually have pointed it out very nicely that it was absolutely not possible to restore in its original form. But the first and foremost thing, that is the government, that may be the central government, but that may be the state government, they should put forward their step into this thing, and they should taking care of the environment much more in a rational way than we can do. We have to cooperate with them, but the thing is that they should put forward their step in much better way and much organized way, so that the whatever has been lost, that can be that may not be restored in its proper way or in its original form, but that should be taken care of. So anyway, all of the students have provided your views very thought provoking way. All of them have been, I mean, delivering a excellent lecture, and the question answer session was very good. You asked some of the question, and I would like to ask and have already asked some of the question. So thank you so much. I would like to associate it with you in future as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope that in our future events we will be,
Sure, sure.
yeah, certainly. And the thing is that we hope that when the offline, all these events are going to be offline also, we will be
Exactly,
able to,
exactly.
you will be able to hear in our college,
Yeah,
and we
in
will
person. Yeah,
be,
in person.
yeah,
I'm
certainly.
exactly.
So thank you, Dr. Boshak, once again. Thank you, students. So we conclude our event. So thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.